another brief moment in time when we get to see the change of the tides. The shifted, twisted bit technology showcasing the little bits of safety, while the quick trips are surely randomly sparking the photons around me. Let the light flow from the heat, yo. When the photons ignite, highlighting, yo, then you know it's that time when we force a change in tides. A little bit lined with something in us. It's almost like we something else, autonomous, or maybe perhaps it's that missing piece you needin'. Perhaps it's that simple message you searching. Perhaps it's just a different time framing us for the next adventure in the mainframe. Getting excited, so are the photons. Don't laminate so we can change the coupon. Let me raise the hash rate, submit the coupon fake, and reduce the rate while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money will hash in your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter cause it's time for 3D changes perspectives. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
What up, everybody? Still off on that timer because I pushed add instead of timer when we popped in. How crazy is that? Well, okay. You see the text. You see the title. You see this is about the BIP 110, BNB, Bitcoin on-chain storage. And these are reviews. That's right. We're gonna actually technically review something. Meaning I've looked over it, kind of looked at it, went considered what that meant, and now we're gonna give that presentation of information. So after seeing that, basically, the Bitcoin Core and the Bitcoin Knots devs were like accepting fates and we're working together to get BIP 110 implemented faster, I realized I really need to review it. So we are going to review BIP 110. Now, if I'm going to review BIP 110, that means I'm going to need to review like the UMBV or BMV, which are the ultimate Bitcoin Media Vault concept, or the Bitcoin Media Vault concept. We'll just call it that from going on, pretty much. But we're also going to showcase like legit old school stamped imagery in Bitcoin that will still work after the BIP 110. So the goal of today, I guess, is to change your perspective on what BIP 10 really is with the review. It's also to change your perspective on how to use Bitcoin for media storage and to actually give a different example of stamping into the Bitcoin chain that is basically BIP 110 compliant. Alright, I know that's a lot to unpack at the very beginning, but that's basically what today's episode is going to be about. It shouldn't actually be that long, if we're lucky. And I mean that way because, like, BIP 110 is actually kind of a simple concept. So, everything else is going to be complicated after that, thankfully. Alright, well, I got to thank today's network partnerships and partnerships. So, I want to thank The Organized for teaming up with Bitcoin Live Digital Broadcasting, DB, because Bitcoin Live DB and The Organized is a powerhouse combo. Now, I do see new heights for both organizations. Now, if you haven't checked out any of The Organized early morning broadcasts for Stacks and Sats, then you're missing out, because they've been taking off with more and more every day. And you can find them on Twitter, pretty much anywhere you're seeing this right now, except for Odyssey. Alright, so now I also need to thank the sponsor, which you saw that at the beginning if you got in here soon enough. Alright, so because I accidentally pushed it instead of timer. Alright, so I want to thank Shield Filio for sponsoring today's episode from within a quantum bit, as well as the Bitcoin Live DB network. Now, if you haven't actually checked out Shield Filio, well, they're like a little black book. They're made from stone paper. They're fade resistant, tear resistant, even water resistant, so you don't have to worry about the info and secret shit. You have storage in your Shield Folio, you know it's going to last and survive whatever you throw at it. I personally have a Shield Folio, and I use it for like my website info, crypto, my contacts, all sorts of things, even my like online keys. So among other things, these little black books are basically pocket sized and ready to be by your size, regardless of your adventure in real life or online. And I honestly do have one. I really do enjoy them. They have more products and stuff on their website. So basically, we have a giant QR on your screen. We have a small QR on your screen. They're the same QR. Basically, it's going to take you to their website. And on their website, you get their product, Awesome Sauce. You use Bitcoin Live 20. You get 20% off purchase today. So we're going to roll in with the roll-ins and then kind of roll in. thank you again. Show filler for sponsoring today's episode. And, well, I guess it's time to present the welcome into the photon of the greater fourth dimension quantum machine. So, the way we do this here, it's kind of like a simple but fun process. So, basically, we're going to go to websites. We're going to have QR. So, for example, this website that's up right here, this is the YouTube for Deorganized. So I just want to point out that this is Deorganized Media, and again, they go live almost every morning on how to earn Bitcoin by stacking stacks, so that you can check them out. Basically, they're like your daily hookup for everything digitally popping, blah blah blah. Awesome sauce, people. Go ahead and check them out. There you go. You use the QR to find them. So that means like after the episode, after the show, you basically watch the show, you get its info, and then you can go back and you can kind of follow along while you're watching, or you can go back and actually check out this stuff afterwards, more full, more in depth. And like, for example, we're going to go ahead and give you a free pre-search query today. We do this each and every episode. So today's free pre-search query is explain the BIP 110 drama. Today's free pre-search query is what I just said. Yeah, explain the BIP 110 drama. And like always, I did not use this query in today's episode in research, but that doesn't mean that we won't have some overlapping links. If anything about today's episode actually interests you or whatever, basically this free pre-search query should help you find more info about going into this rabbit hole. Just use the QR on your screen, or even maybe just use your phone or a screen reader or something like that, OCR, and jump down that rabbit hole afterwards. So, as you can see, there's links and stuff underneath. There's information. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Let me catch you guys up. So, basically, I gotta get you caught up to speed because, well, most people, they don't probably realize, like, BIP 110, for example. BIP stands for Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, right? So this is just like the 110th Bitcoin Improvement Proposal. And believe it or not, there's like already a BIP out there after this one, into an attempt to return the OP return back to OP cat, in which people don't even realize like OP cat pretty much stands for something like optional category, which ended up becoming the changeback system in Bitcoin transactions. Now, the point and purpose of the return option has actually changed multiple different times and over the same amount of years. So it's now more of like a multiple function part of the Bitcoin databasing system. And I honestly believe that BIP 110 is an attempt to get people to use the Bitcoin chain technology that exists within the systematic layers that makes up the Bitcoin chain and Bitcoin softwares. So that is a bit of where my perspective is coming from. There's a ton of like unique systems within Bitcoin, and they may not be like unique by themselves or individually, but they are usable in unique ways. Many we still do not actually fully know the full extent to which ways these can be for some of these internal systems. And hopefully by the end of today's episode, you'll have learned at least a unique possible method to use these internal systems within Bitcoin. All right, so yeah, basically, we're gonna review BIP 110. We're gonna review how to do data storage in Bitcoin after BIP 110. That's really the goal today. All right, so it's a simple goal, but it's for the right matter. I think for the right cause. All right, so here we go. Doing this. All right, so this is the BIP 110. This is their website. Blah blah blah. It's pretty simple, right? Okay, so basically, this is the basic information for BIP 110, right? And I will admit that I'm not actually a fan of BIP 110, but at the same time, I do see what's going on. So, something you're not going to see in here, but something to think about. Like in 2017, Bitcoin devs put in place systems that help with transactional inflation during a hype adoption phase. So here is a similar system being put in place. But this, to me, seems kind of like a big block versus small block argument that could actually potentially one day split the chain. So, however, after reviewing the GitHub and the systems, I realized that there may actually be a hidden reason for people pushing this BIP 110. Basically, like, to push more people to use Taproot scripting. Now, I kind of want to explain that a bit more, but that's really the thing to go through. So we're gonna go to the GitHub. We're just gonna go. We're actually in the GitHub. Let me. I'm not logged in or anything, so we don't have nighttime mode. So, all right. So this is the generalized specification of like basically how the BIP is supposed to work. All right. So if we go up, like it just gives us like abstraction, and the abstract I think breaks it down pretty simply. Temporarily limit the size of the data fields in the consensus level. In order to correct distorted incentives caused by standardizing support for arbitrary data, and to refocus priorities on improving Bitcoin as money. Now, I've said before in the past, many times, I've been on other podcasts and stuff and said this too. There's quite a bit you can do there's a whole lot you can change at the consensus level without actually causing a split in the chain. But things that happen at the consensus level can always debate into a split in the chain. Like, for example, at one point in time, there was no limit in the block size of Bitcoin. It was just that they were slowly getting bigger, and it was like an even flow. Like, people's miners and nodes were able to handle the increase because it was within 1 megabyte. And the reason why that's super fucking important, we're actually going to get into it here in a little bit, because there's a really important reason why small blocks won that argument. I mean, even if you think about it, like Bitcoin Cash is probably like they've been in a like big boom phase for almost like 3 or 4 years. I'd say I would give them even 6 years. 6 years of the big boom phase, and they're still like way far behind in comparison to Bitcoin on many levels. On many levels, not all of them, but many levels. For example, like Bitcoin has been slowly increasing its through rate and stuff to get closer and closer to match BCH and stuff like that. But it has more complex systems that work with inside of it, and other things on top of that BCH hasn't even tried to mess with, because they're using a big block solution for the same problem, which is scaling. All right, so when we go to the specification, it says for like 1 year only. Now, anything that is code that says 1 year only does not mean it's actually 1 year. It means like it's set up to only work for a year or be used for a year, but that doesn't mean it won't last longer than a year or less than a year. There's always a chance that if the majority of miners just choose not to adjust, if the majority of nodes just choose not to use, they ain't going to get very far with it, even if it gets implemented. And people just choose not to use it. They just choose to use versions of code that have not this, or they just ignore the specifications of BIP 110. Well, then it's going to die anyways, even if it's still in code. It doesn't actually matter, because you can just the code doesn't matter. You just write your own node programs, write your own software, problem solved. So let's get into the actual specification. I think I've talked about the history on this a little bit. Let's get into the actual specification. So this basically creates new output script pub keys extending 34 bytes are now invalid, unless the first opcode is like OP return, in which case up to 83 bytes are valid. Now, that's super important here, because the OP return thing up to 83 bytes is gonna be under strict scrutiny. So the OP push data payloads and script argument witness items exceeding 256 bytes are now invalid, except for the redeem script push in BIP16 script signatures. And that's because that's an older thing. It was using like the full maximum range at the time. And those are like, I believe, secure scripts. So like that makes some sense. So number 3, spending undefined witness or tap leaf versions not witness BIP 141 taproot or BIP 341 or P to A is invalid. Creating outputs with undefined witness versions is still valid though. Now this is the part that even me going, what? Like, there is still some amount of information here. To me, it doesn't give you a whole lot of clue of what's actually allowed under that. To me, it sounds like basically they're trying to allow the bare minimum. The bare minimum. And we might be able to manipulate that. Okay. So witness stacks with the taproot are now invalid. The taproot annex. And that, okay, like, that just kind of shows you that there was stuff in taproot people just generally don't want. Like, it's spam shit. Like, when email was invented, the guy immediately regretted it. Especially, I think he said he sent someone an email and realized that could be considered spam. And so, okay, so the taproot annex is now valid. Now, the taproot control blocks larger than 257 bytes with Merkle trees with 128 script leaves are now invalid. So then tap scripts including OP success, OP codes, anywhere, even unexecuted, are invalid. So tap scripts executing the OP if or OP notify instruction, regardless of the result, like succession or not, invalid. So input spending UTXOs that were created before the activation heights are exempt from the new rules. And that's simply because, like, they were already there, right? Once the soft fork expires, UTXOs of all heights are once again unrestricted. So basically, it's like when the soft fork itself is expired on its own naturally, all the UTXOs, even if they're on chain, whatever, they'll be unrestricted again. So this doesn't mean you can't put shit on chain. That's one of the big things this is saying. It's saying, look, we're not stopping you from putting shit on chain. We're making it faster for the normal nodes to bypass shit they don't want. That's what it really is going on. So there is a git block template. There's some other stuff going on. Now, there's a spot in here. I have specific notes. Okay, yeah. So I have specific notes on the motivation of the BIP. I think, okay, to me, the motivation behind this BIP is pointless. Like, the BIP writer's reason for submitting this BIP does not make any difference. It really matters nothing. Now, okay, so, like, I believe there's a lot of drama coming from the motivation behind the BIP, okay? And that's my opinion. But, so, like, what I'm saying is this is, like, literally the BIP's writer's reasoning and nothing more. But because it's there, people have been thrown a fit, okay? And it's kind of like one of the ways we got into the big block argument. It's someone's opinion. So now we're in this part of it, so we're somewhere else. Within the still GitHub for the wiki, basically. What up, Roadkill? Brosive. Just wait. We got some real fun shit coming up after this. Like this, I know this sounds really technical. This has got some history, but the stuff after this, pretty cool. You're gonna like to see this. Thanks for showing up, Brosive. Love to see you. All right, so, okay. Why limiting the script pub keys to 34 bytes? So unspent script pub keys, except for OP return, must be stored indefinitely in the UTXO set, which nodes must store on fast media and cannot prune. That's important, okay? So fast storage, usually RAM, is the much more costly per byte, and it's slower than non-volatile storage. So the UTXO set does increase the size. This burden on node operators increases, it harming decentralization, making it more difficult, basically, for nodes running low RAM machines like Raspberry Pis and such, and small specialized machines, like there's a whole lot more node devices out there. There's like actual machines you can just purchase, plug in, and run, basically. There's more miners that work with them, and a lot of these run at like 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5 actually is starting to become a thing, but 3, 4, and 6 gigabytes. 8 gigabytes being some of the more high-end node operators. But then you got some people that have just like computers sitting there with like 128 gigabytes of RAM, and those motherfuckers don't even give a fuck because they're like, "Well, bro, I got all the RAM," and like, so that's really the point here. It's all about RAM. It really is. Okay, so what they're doing is they're trying to basically like one of the guys. All right, one of the guys that teamed up with the Knots guy, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna really make this work this time." Okay, he personally owns a node company where they produce machines, little machines, tiny little machines that are Bitcoin nodes. And I honestly believe he's doing everything he can to not have to go in through and increase their RAM on those machines and make them like triple, quadruple in price. And I'm fudging the price thing. They will increase the price dramatically. Is what I'm getting at, and they don't want to do that. And so there is some personal motivation potentially behind this. And that is kind of stupid, right? But at the same time, being a person who runs I am also someone who I run Raspberry Pi nodes, right? So, like, we all want to run our small nodes, and some of us can't run our small nodes because we don't have 32 gigabytes of RAM. And then also, price of RAM went up recently, right? So, there is more in here. But that's really the part that matters. A lot of the image on storage and full like decentralized storage on storage for like on-chain storage has been destroying node capabilities. Even though like node operators are up and stuff, there's a lot of evidence showing that there's a lot of like node operators that are ran by the same like IP address. So it's like one person running a shitload of nodes. And well, that is one of the tricks to the game. Alright, so we're gonna keep going. So, there's this thing inside Bitcoin, okay? It's called the Tapley service. Now, this is a specific situation or whatever, like, okay. So, basically, it says Bitcoin can verify the correct execution of a Boolean circuit and penalize its incorrect execution. This allows you to build really complex circuitry, basically, within the code. Okay, so the circuit will evaluate the example zero checking function and sequences not gates and if it's not gates and gates, so the type of gates if it's a not gate or an and gate, to check the inputs. What up, Dimcat? Whoop whoop. Morning, fam. Thank you for showing up. You've been coming in every week. I really appreciate that. So basically, this checks for the sequence, and it checks to see if there are zeros, whatever, and basically just uses the number of zeros in a sequence to determine things, or if there's ones within that sequence to determine things. And if you think about it, it's kind of like an automated like API check system. And it's really neat. All right, but this means that there's like a lot of functions within it. It's basically like a turnkey system. So it's like its own coding format. Okay? Anybody who's ever done like hardland coding on an actual hard machine where you have to go in and you have to turn a screw or move an adjuster or use a pin plate that has, like, it's a little piece of plastic that has two pieces, that has a piece of metal in it that connects two pins together. If you've ever had to do any hardline coding that way, or even punch card, then you'll understand how this works. And it's basically simple scripting. So, all right, okay. So, let's get into the actual TapScript of it. So that's right. They have an actual scripting language in Taproot called TapScript, this really allows you to take all this different stuff and really kind of put it together into a uniform format. Okay, so this has an OP check, multi-sig, OP check, multi-sig verify. OP check is add, OP success. It's got basic functionalities that allow you to do basic things that are complex, very complex. So it just allows you scripting, right? Nice, awesome. So these are basically, these last couple things we've been showing are systems within Bitcoin. These are systems that now exist within Bitcoin because of Taproot. So I just asked pre-search, hey, using Taproot or Tapleaf, how do I find base64 media file? And it gives me this. Now I do have an image in case you guys just want this offhand or whatever. And you can see this isn't a whole lot of code to do this. And we're really just working on regex like usual and basic stuff that's already built into like whatever language we're using. So it's quite simple. So we can use like the base64 guru to encode just about anything. Like if we go encoders, we can do audio, CSS file, hex, HTML, image, PDF, text, URL, anything. I've taken entire folders with entire like multitudes of programs inside of them and managed to being able to base64 and wrap it and output and like send it, and then the other person decode it to the folder with the files again. Like it's insane the amount of stuff that base64 can actually wrap. And that's kind of the beauty of base64. It allows you to create media hashes. Not just media files, media hashes. Hashes that can contain media. And that is the magic secret sauce. So then I was like, all right, let's try this again. How do I use a Taproot script to get a base64 media file from interplanetary networking system or interplanetary file system, IPNS, IPFS? And it's just as simple, if not more simple, to do that than to actually pull out the full base64 media directly. Okay. So now, the first thing anybody's going to say is, bruh, have you ever wrapped media in base64? My answer, of course, is yeah. I developed an entire system on being able to transfer that. And then someone at Google figured out how to make it way better. And it's nice. Itty bitties. Alright, so the itty bitty site system allows you to do that very easily. And so yeah, it gets quite large. And that is where BIP 110 hits us. BIP 110 stops us from, oh wait, I also have I have the picture of if you just want that data. So BIP 110 stops you from being able to do this because, well, the picture is too fucking big, the hash is too big, it reaches a 256 byte thing, and you're like, oh man, this is way bigger than 83 bytes of data. Well, the thing is, there's more than one way to hide data, or there's more than one way to hide numbers inside numbers. More than one way. Okay? So I sat down, and I made this. Okay? This is basic ideal of how to do media storage on Bitcoin after BIP 110. Okay? So it says BIP 110 doesn't have to wreck your online storage with Bitcoin. Everyone forgets media storage isn't what it seems. And there's more than one way to stamp your media into Bitcoin. Below are actually hypothetical methods that may assist you in storing media on Bitcoin while keeping under the 82-byte soft limit. Now keep in mind, that's the higher end of the soft limit, right? So we have to put that in the OP return. Okay, but there may be another way. So because I made the SPX system, which is superpositioning text or supposix, and all that does is it crunches hashes down as small as possible. It uses quantum token swap compressions, among other systems, like verifiers and other things. SupposX. Like, for example, it says right down here, SupposX is a deterministic reversible quantum-inspired compression and encoding scheme. It takes base 64 strings through faux binary node grid mapping and dimensional shifting with parity checks built inside, like Hamming code plus modified Futurama theorem for auto self-correcting Hamming systems, and then using geometric magic number verifications to ensure the output that you put in, the input and the output are the same. Pattern-based token swaps, and again, quantum entangled compression tokens, or QECs. So the output of a compact graph hash string, for example, the word hello world is 73 characters in AC, and well, it's actually in binary. Misspoke there. It's 73 characters in binary. But we're able, with SupposX, we can drop that down to like 67. We can actually drop that down. It's not a whole lot, right? But like compared to other methods to do the same thing, I mean, we're talking like sometimes double, triple. And the more the data set is over a certain limited number of like 26 bytes or something like that, then the amount of compression just only increases. So it works on this matter of like pattern recognizability. And so tap leaf circuits does the same thing. And so I'm like, bro, these are like made for each other almost, right? And so this kind of explains a little bit more of how the tap leaf circuit really works. And then we go into the context of the bit 110. And then so now here are some of the processing that you would have to go through to actually get your stuff situated. And the great thing about SPX is, for as long as you have patterns and the output, you can take an output, throw it back in SPX, and it will basically compress it more and more and more. So you can compress on top of compress. So, and it's saying like feed this through until you get it under 82 bytes, right? And then you're gonna have a 1 byte header. This is gonna allow you to find it and stuff. And so now I'm telling you that, okay, look, this is basically what we're going to have to see below here is like pseudocode. It might not be real. It's just a skeleton ideal of how the code should or may work inside of like your wallet. Okay. So it's not a whole lot of code. Okay. So then we have the actual method. So that's the prep. Okay. Now we got to put that into something. And here we're using SPX, so it's not the whole lot of info. And I know I'm not explaining it 'cause it doesn't. You'll see why it doesn't matter. And basically, this takes the base 64 media. It uploads it to IPFS. You get a CID. You compress that CID with SPX, and then you build your inputs with it. From that, you have your outputs. Then you send in your OP return for your payload, and then you make sure the value equals 0 at the end, so it's even. And then you sign and broadcast. And everything after this, the things that are slightly different are going to be like 1, 2, 3, right? And then the 4 is always going to be the same. So as some of these go in, there's less to do because it's less being done. It's like it's a pointer instead of an actual file. So we're showing you how to like do this directly on Bitcoin, doing this using like IPFS, using cloud storage or personal storage. Yeah, this one we even said Pinata Cloud was one of the options you could use here. There's quite a bit going on. So and that's kind of like the whole point of, hey, look, there's these tap leaf circuits, there's these tap script, there's these systems within that we can use. All right. Now, if you go through all of this, I basically have the same logic again without SPX. I know SPX isn't perfect. I ain't going to be stupid. So, all the same stuff again without SPX. But this one, we took it a little bit further. And, one of these. Oh yeah, you can hide it. Yeah, okay. So, what if you wanted valid on-chain ownership, okay, without OP return. Oh yeah, that might be possible. That might be possible. Mm-hmm. Yep. And see, the great thing is about this is by doing this, you actually end up with some amount of information that can be used to create actual addresses that can be paid to. So there is a possibility that using these types of methods where we use the tab leaf and tab script, and we use different types of methodologies to hide the data inside of itself. Like, I haven't said the one I'm really thinking about, and you'll see why in a second, but there really is a way to have nearly unlimited storage on Bitcoin by producing real wallets with the data that's being stored on chain. So they're valid wallets that you can send money to. Okay? So there's a chance you could create media vaults that have wallet addresses that can accept funds while at the same time being an image, being a media file, a video, or even a folder of files. Anything. Nearly unlimited. But it's going to take a little bit of work to get it. Alright, so then there's this program. Okay. And you see we're in, this is actually my 3D changes perspectives. Like, I have a GitHub for everything I make for the show, and I throw it all in here. So this is today's episode. And you see there's a Media Vault Python program. There's a web and a non-web version. Then there's a UBMV, which is like the ultimate. It's just got a bunch more features in it. And the current one is UBMV2. This is it's just got updates and other things added to it. Then the actual images we saw earlier, some other stuff we'll get into. So this is basic and simple. You're actually going to see me do a couple things here randomly, right? Yeah, okay. It would drop. It opened up exactly where I wanted it to. Okay, perfect. So we're just gonna okay, open the terminal here. So we're just gonna this. All right. Here it is. There is your ultimate Bitcoin Media Vault program. This allows you to select the media that you want, and you see there's a preview. There's a bunch of things we can basically pin it, we can store it, we can announce it. So okay, let me just I don't have a zoom feature. Sorry, I can't zoom in. Let me explain the feature slightly more. So basically, we see there is a store plus pin announcement tab that we're on. There is a receive plus pin decoder to get your out of what we do. There is a tap leaf multi-sig round robin keychain encoder decoder. Yeah, generate it or reveal it. And in case for you're young and you don't know what round robin means, okay, there is something called round robin keychaining. And what that does, this is basically how Monero hides data with inside. Like, okay, this is how not only how can Monero hide data, but this is how Monero hides your transaction amongst a various set of outputs, and to where no one can really tell which one's yours. So this allows you to store data forward and backward in a manner where you're going to get all the data. You might have to mine it out to figure out what order the data goes in, but you're going to get all the data, okay? And you can only put so much data in a round robin. Like a round robin keychain can only hold so much. It does get bigger, it does get bigger, it does get bigger. But there's quite a bit you can do with it, okay? and then we have a BHB checker in cold storage built in. So basically, you can use a Bitcoin hash based checking system for determining information about blocks and also storing offline data about blocks in a manner where you can actually use it. It's pretty cool. All of that built in. So now let's go into the store plus pin announcement, because this is the best part, right? This is the part that I wanted everyone to try to think about. Okay, so automatically it's set up for web only. So it's going to go use a web interface to upload IPFS, to get all the information, to pull back, and we're going to drop. We're going to drop it all up in here. So I'm just going to hit the button. Oh wait, I got to choose a service. Choose a service. So you can see there's not a whole lot of services. We do need to get more up in here. Blah 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 blah. And so I'm going to pick something I know that's going to pop up, but I don't know. I'm not going to actually be able to full up. It says look, in this spot there is this. You're going to use that. You get to upload. Cool. And then boom. There it is. So then we can actually, okay, let me choose the file. So we can choose a file. We can upload. Okay, here it is. All right. Now I'd have to set up all this stuff and get all this stuff connected. You see, I'm not connected. But I would need to be connected. That would be the first thing I would need to do, is be connected. Okay, let me get back to where we were. Let me bring this back up. So I'm not connected up, so we're not going to do it all, but it shows you some stuff. And basically, it even tells you, look, we can pin this with 38 bytes. Now, I'm sure this is probably incorrect because we don't have all the right information. Some of it's given it is blank, and so it's not proper. But as you see, there's an announcement pinning thing, so that we can announce an IPFS pin, which will be a wallet. Will be a wallet address. You will be able to send money to it. So you can pin information to IPFS, okay, in a manner that can accept donations. That's pretty fucking crazy. Alright? You can do multiple CIDs or torrentless or even IPNS folder. Okay? You can enable public one-time transactions. What up, Slay Every Game? Oi, brosif. Glad to see you in. We're talking about the ultimate Bitcoin media vault after the Bitcoin 10. So that's where they limit everything. So we can allow to encode a public one-time view key. This was one of the things that I saw was available within TapScript, and I was like, what? People can pay to view stuff? Like, what? I can pay to allow someone to get access to a set of round robins. So, like, the round robin keychain. I can just allow someone to view it once and get paid for it. And we can change how much sats we want. I have it set as a default for 9, but we can 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to get a lot of sats for that one, right? And you can do that with or without the round robin, actually. We can set a round robin base 64 hash. So this is the one where it tries to take the hash, and instead of going like instead of just relying on IPFS. So basically, let's say we turn off the IPNS, we turn off the IPNS, we turn off the IPNS. All right, we want to directly put media on Bitcoin. Well, we're going to use a base 64 round robin. So we're going to take the base 64 hash, and we're going to cut that bitch up and round robin that motherfucker into its own keychain to try to reduce the size. All right. Now if we have a node running, like I don't have one running right this second to kind of stop, right? Because I'm live. But if we did, I could click to use it. All right. I can make this permanent non-prunable data, or we can keep it prunable data. Meaning, if it's prunable, most likely it will stay on chain as long as you have a node with that data non-pruned. Okay? But, so we can make it permanent, but we can also publish to IPNS in immutable fashion. So we could like make it permanent tap leaf, but not permanent IPFS, and it be the raw file without directly publishing to IPNS. Like, we're going to be publishing a proof to IPNS. It's kind of crazy, right? And so this will allow you to do a whole bunch of stuff. And at the same time, you can just click here to open up, to do. I just needed the transaction. I don't want to run a node to do all this. No problem. Just, yeah. It's a hot wallet system. So basically, you just put in some funds and then use those funds to do this, and then you can. It's an actual like old-fashioned coin purse wallet. So like you can reuse it over and over. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. All right. So that is this. That's this ultimate. Yes, I do want to close the temporary. Thank you. This is the ultimate Bitcoin Media Vault 2. And that's what we just looked at. So it is, as I say, hypothetical. Sure, the Python code really does do stuff. It really does work. It is under 1,000 lines of code. And it is used, like, you run your Bitcoin node and you can use this right beside it. Okay, they don't even have to, like, we do have it set up where you don't even need a node to use it, but it's designed where you can use it alongside your node. Okay, so that's my solution. When I saw this, at first I wasn't sure if it was a joke. Okay, and I was like, damn, I can't believe it. And that's what made me come up with, look into this, which eventually came to me writing writing program. I decided to. I don't know Python like I know JavaScript, so the majority of this was generated code and then edited and bug checked. I didn't fully bug check. I know there's still more bugs in there, but it does do stuff. And that's the important part. So then I found out, okay, this was a joke. All right. Next day they said, hey, look, it's a joke. All right. But this actually got a lot of people scared. This FUD right here got a lot of people scared. It made people freak out. Okay. So then I found this website, which basically just kind of talks about, like, the BIP 110 is pointless. And it kind of is. I think BIP 110 wants to show people that you can do this in other ways. It's just kind of like, hey, get smarter about your shit, bro. But it is pointless. I agree. So then I found the actual, because he gives it to you, right? We just saw it was linked in there. Skip it. Okay. So here it is. Okay, so the abstract of this non-slides is this person presents proof that several of the ambitious claims by Bitcoin not supporters are not true. Most notably, the claims about continuous data. To prove this, I stored over 66 kilobytes of continuous image file in the Bitcoin time chain without using OP return. So this is like old school stamping. Okay. Like, for example, there's an ad for Tron, the TRN chain and token on Bitcoin, like a month before Tron released. So, and it's using the old school method without the OP return. So this is doing the same thing. So Taproot or following policy rules, and to highlight the point, the image file itself is an entire transaction. And that's the old school way of doing it. We put it into a transactional data point instead of the entire block. So we can exist within other transactions hiddenly, so to speak. This document also explains how anyone can verify and claim themselves using their own node. That was one of the reasons why in that program that I wrote, there is a view system. Like there's a way to set up your round robin to where only the person you send it to can view it, or someone who chooses to pay, if you allow it. So the important update that you see here says I listened to the feedback and also made it BIP 110 compliant. Because there is a way to do this where it's not BIP 110 compliant, where you break the rules or whatever. So the continuous data, the main claim that not supporters is that whether the data is stored on disk, interrupted by other data, non-continuous, or has bearing whether it is legal. Therefore, the claim is to decrease the size of every Bitcoin stores to ensure nobody can do anything like that. The ideal is already ridiculous. So, judge, is it alleged that you stored illegal content on your device? Yes, but it was split up into parts. Okay, not guilty, right? Like that's the person's concept thought. So, however, there is a way to show this ideal even more nonsensical than it looks, despite Bitcoin already supposedly not having more than 520 bytes of continuous data, except for transaction outputs, which scripts start with OP return. I managed to make a transaction that, when interpreted as an image file, can be processed by readily available image viewers to show the image of Luke Jr. crying. This image. I really didn't want to make it personal by using a specific image, but when I heard Luke accusing people left and right of being bad actors, which I did see some of that online, I figured it was fair game. That's right. This is not only an image in the time chain, it's also continuously stored on the entire transaction of the image. So you don't even need to skip the initial bytes. So you're forced to load it. And here's how you can verify it. And believe it or not, I don't even know if that's going to show. But I'm actually at the thing. Like, you guys can probably see that. I don't have a way to talk into the chat to be able to just paste it or whatever. But it's a meme pool space. So what we can do is, I didn't think about this ahead of time. I just now thought about this now. Right. So if I hit enter right there, it does pull it up. It wants me to save. I already have it saved. Raw.tiff, save, overwrite. We can pull this back up and see it's right there, right? I think can't view it. Alright. I mean, you can see inside my file browser it views just fine. Alright. So, wait. Yeah. I went past where I was wanting to go. Okay, so the fact that you can get this from a raw transaction using memepools.space, can even do this. That's the link I was showing you. So it's right there. Alright, so this claims debunked by the transaction. It matters whether the data in the transaction is continuous or not. As you can see, despite the consensus rules not allowing continuous data, I still managed to store continuous image file. Messing with continuous parameters won't change it. Only make it a day or two longer to work around it. This guy, I don't know exactly when this was published, but this guy at the time even understood you're not stopping this. You're simply forcing people to go take new ways to do it. Yep. There are new ways to do it. And that's really, really the point, right? Like, look, when we're talking about all this, and we get down to it, what is a lot of this all about? Well, I would say this is really about a couple of people who have businesses that are reliant on the ideal that small devices are able to verify transactions. But perhaps there's more to it than that. Like that to me, that's just this like potential hidden thing, right? And to be honest, there's more than one person, more than one company, more than one business relying on the ideal that small devices can verify transactions. So, BIP110 is an experimental BIP, or Bitcoin improvement puzzle, that could result in the permanent stay similar to the block change in the code during the block war debates. We also saw this with the minimal transaction system. There used to be a minimal transaction allowance of 0, but now you have to have at least like a partial virtual byte, even if it's not removable from your account. But it does, like this all does, BIP110 actually does remove data storage from Bitcoin. Yes or no? No, it does not. It only limits how the data can be stored. Some of the original stamping techniques that doesn't use OP return at all still work. And something I didn't highlight but is in that program, that UMV2 or UBMV2, there is a way to store your round robin in a transaction without the OP return. Just gonna point that out. So no, this only limits how the data is stored there. Some of the original techniques are still usable. But because of Taproot, there is actually a slew of new ways to actually store data directly on chain where it's more hidden. You can't really tell that it's an image or a file. It just looks more like a multi-sig. Okay? And more multi-sigs nowadays look more like regular transactions, so there's a chance it looks more like a regular transaction. Alright, but honestly, a reduction of allowed length of scripts and such, I say and such because there's more to it than just that, right? In the OP return this isn't actually a bad thing. It's a slight modification that does hinder the usability of Bitcoin in some ways. But if you know how to use the technology within Bitcoin, like TapScript, then it isn't a problem at all. It's simply there's more coding that needs to be done, more obfuscation is needed. Like, you gotta code, obfuscate, you gotta do this. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. Hiding anything in public should require some extra code and obfuscation to help those who want some amount of privacy. Like, for example, in one of the example programs, there is actually a way to allow someone to pay the view of the keychain data, which could be a whole new way to handle on-chain assets, where the one-time view ticket becomes its own wealth object. So imagine having a Bitcoin media vault of encoded signing hashes that a single view ticket can access, other than the owner, right? So instead of selling the actual embedded BMV, you sell the view ticket on chain automatically and with the encoded system built in to the BMV. You may need to create some custom front end for people to interact with it, sure. But this payment and key generation could be completely automated. So now imagine this is like a game. The BMV gets a ton of backing into the vault media file. But first, I said that wrong. But the first to use their view key gets to extract those funds. Now, do you let the funds pile up, or do you extract it as soon as possible? Like, think about it. The second you extract, your view key is destroyed, but not someone else's. So there might be people waiting around for everyone else to use their view keys. And their view key sits, and then that thing builds up more wealth over time. And then they might use it years later to extract a whole lot of wealth. But, let's say, for example, okay, what if this was a game? Like, for example, what I just described is like pool financing and other things you see on Ethereum, right? But it could also just be a game. Like, legitimately, okay? It could be this thing that people, like, throw money into and hoping that they're going to be able to get more money out later, or it might be I use it to put some sats up that I can hide from myself, and then when I need it later, I can go pull it out with my view key, right? Because I own it. Send it to myself. Or what if we're talking about in-game assets, right? Or what if this is like a pool type game where it's more like, hey, there's an automated system that's going to put money in here. Every time someone purchases a game, it puts money into there. And that's how the system works. Imagine having a game where you're like, oh yeah, there's this like live trading ecosystem within the game. Well, how do you know it's a live trading ecosystem? Because the game is a BMV, right? So it's an asset on chain, right? And it's got a series of wallets. And we use those series of wallets to transact with each other all within the BMV, right? Never actually going on chain, but the second we do certain things, we destroy the key we use to do this stuff. Like we destroy our wallet view key. And so your whole point of the game, right? Like you're playing this game and you're doing all this stuff and you're buying, you're trading, you're selling, you're equipping your character, because if your character dies, your view key dies. And if your view key dies, well, you can't play the game no more. Like, it could literally be that. It could be a ton of actual functions, features, and systems that are integrated into the Bitcoin on-chain. And it comes down to just like how you use it. And that's really all Bitcoin is. How you use it. The BIP 110 dramatically changes how you can use it, but doesn't change the fact that you can use it for media storage. Or whatever the fuck you want, really.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying our mental mind state, separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with pot. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited, so the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can line up the hash rate. Let me surmise the time, submit the rate, and reduce the fakes while we mine our major bags. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new roll of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective.